So, guten Abend allerseits.
Let's begin with prayer then.
Lasst uns mit Gebet anfangen.
Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you that we can gather now again.
Lieber himmlischer Vater, ich möchte dir danken, dass wir wieder zusammenkommen können.
And thank you that you have given us the truth for these last days.
Und danke, dass du uns die Wahrheit gegeben hast für diese letzten Tage.
And help us now to be attentive and to be grateful for your word which you want to reveal to us.
Und hilft uns jetzt aufmerksam zu sein und auch dankbar für dein Wort, die du uns jetzt auftun möchtest.
And help us to forsake our thoughts and that we learn to think your thoughts.
Und hilft uns, unsere eigenen Gedanken aufzugeben und dass wir deine Gedanken denken würden.
And please help us to understand your words spiritually and to place them correctly on the line.
Und hilft uns, dein Wort geistlich zu verstehen und dass wir es auf korrekte Weise auf der Linie markieren würden.
And I want to thank you that you've promised that you will lead us into all your truth with your Holy Spirit.
Und ich möchte dir danken, dass du verheißen hast, uns in alle Wahrheit hineinzuführen durch deinen Heiligen Geist.
And so I ask you now that you would bless this evening study and also Brother Lawrence who is presenting your word.
Und ich möchte jetzt bitten, dass du diese Abendandacht segnen mögest und auch Bruder Lorenz, der dein Wort vorträgt.
In Jesus' name, amen.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Okay, so as mentioned yesterday, we will look now at Daniel 10.
So wie ich gestern erwähnt habe, wir werden jetzt Daniel 10 anschauen.
So please go to your Bibles, Daniel 10.
Gehen wir jetzt in unseren Bibeln zu Daniel 10.
Okay, so let's begin in verse 1.
Wir fangen Vers 1 an.
And there are also some notes in the live stream with a few quotes.
Es gibt auch Notizen in der Livestream mit einigen Zitaten.
Okay, so it says here, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision. Okay, so according to verse 1, what did Daniel receive?
So gemäß Vers 1, was hat Daniel erhalten?
Revelation.
Yes, the revelation.
Offenbarung.
And also what was he now understanding?
Und auch was verstand er jetzt?
The vision.
Vision.
Okay. And yesterday, I mean, it's unfortunately not there anymore, but we laid all the visions line upon line upon each other, right?
Und
Parallel.
gestern haben wir alle Visionen Linie aufeinander gelegt.
So, therefore here we can see now he's standing at the end where he's now understanding these things and he had the revelation.
So, hier können wir sehen, er steht am Ende, wo er diese Sachen versteht, er hat die Offenbarung gehabt.
And it says, which year was it?
Und in welchem Jahr war das? Was sagt es?
Third year of Cyrus, right?
Das 3. Jahr von Kyros.
Which year was this?
Welches Jahr war das?
536.
Yes,
So
536,
536.
right? Which would be this waymark here,
Dass diese Wegmarke hier sein wird.
which is also the first decree.
Und das ist auch der erste Dekret.
Actually, I mean, because that's midnight, it's first decree would be the evening day.
Yes, okay, let's make it like Sunday law to the finery.
So, Sonntagsgesetz bis zur finale Untersuchung.
Okay, so and the verse 1 is basically just a summary of his experience that he will now relay in the next verses.
Und Vers 1 ist nur eine Zusammenfassung von seiner Erfahrung, die er jetzt in den nachkommenden Versen erklären wird.
Okay, so let's now begin in verse 2.
So jetzt Vers 2.
In those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Okay, so what was he doing during these 3 weeks here?
So, was tat er während diese 3 Wochen hier?
Yes, was mourning and fast.
Fasting.
Beklagen und Fasten.
And what else? Yes.
Er hat sich nicht gesagt.
Okay, it doesn't say it literally in these verses here, but what was he doing also?
So, es sagt hier nichts in diesen Versen buchstäblich, aber was tat er noch?
Yes, he was praying.
Er
Right?
betete.
Okay, so and later we will see that he was praying there.
Und später werden wir das sehen.
Okay, in the reform lines,
Und in die Reformlinien,
this would be 538
das wäre hier 538
BC,
vor Christus.
and this would be then Daniel standing before the king, right?
Das hier wäre dann Daniel, der vor dem König steht.
And then he was fasting for 21 days.
Und er hat gefastet diese 21 Tage.
Okay, so fasting plus praying.
Fasten und beten.
And we saw this is what you need to do during the Day of Atonement, right?
Und wir haben gesehen, dass es dies ist, was du tun solltest während der Versöhnungstag.
Like in Daniel 2, what did Daniel do when he was now confronted here with a death decree?
Also genauso in Daniel 2, wenn er hier mit diesem Totendekret begegnet ist.
Todesdekret.
Oder ist er?
Totendekret.
Todesdekret, sorry.
Okay.
Pray.
He was also praying with his friends together, right?
Er hat auch mit seinen Freunden zusammen gebetet.
And for what?
Und wofür?
For a revelation.
Yes, that the secret would be revealed to
Die
him.
Offenbarung, also dass das Geheimnis ihm aufgetan wird.
Okay, and the secret is the revelation.
Und dieses Geheimnis ist auch die Offenbarung.
So when you humble yourself here for this time, at the end of this period, you will receive the revelation.
Also wenn du dich für diese Zeitperiode hier demütigst, am Ende wirst du diese Offenbarung erhalten.
Okay. So, also for instance, Ezekiel, how was he called?
Auch Hesekiel zum Beispiel, wie ist er genannt?
The morning.
Yeah, the morning prophet, right?
Als klagender Prophet.
So he was mourning also in this time here, and then on the 5th day of the 4th month was revealed to him, right?
Er hat während dieser Zeit gewehklagt und am 5. Tag des 4. Monats ist es ihm geoffenbart worden.
So now let's continue.
Lesen wir weiter,
Verse 4.
Vers 4.
And in the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Okay, so according to verse 5 and 6, what is it similar to?
Also wir haben bis Vers 7 gelesen. Also gemäß Verse 5 und 6, mit was ähnelt sich das?
Yes, exactly. Okay, the vision that John saw in the Revelation.
So die Vision, die Johannes in der Offenbarung sah.
So just keep your finger here,
So haltet den Platz.
because here in verse 6, right, it says, his body was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color of polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
Vers 6 haben wir gelesen.
So how was his voice?
Wie war seine Stimme?
Like a multitude. Okay,
Wie eine Volksmenge.
keep your finger here.
Haltet den Platz hier.
Let's go to Revelation 1.
Gehen wir zur Offenbarung 1.
Many more.
Yes. verse 10.
Vers 10.
I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. So what was he hearing?
So was hörte er?
A voice, right?
Eine Stimme.
Saying, I'm Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And then jump down to verse 12.
Und jetzt Vers 12.
And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. Who else saw candlesticks?
Wer hat noch Leuchtern gesehen?
Zechariah, right? In
Zechariah.
Zechariah 4.
Zechariah 4.
Yes.
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were like white wool, as white as snow, and his eyes as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto the fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So here you have this voice like a multitude, like many waters.
So, hier hast du diese Stimme wie eine Volksmenge, wie viele Wasser.
Okay, so therefore we can see at the beginning here, what do you hear?
So, deswegen können wir sehen, hier am Anfang, was hören wir?
A voice.
Eine Stimme.
And we looked at these 2 voices, right?
Das haben wir bereits angeschaut, diese 2 Stimmen.
One at the beginning and one here, right?
Eine am Anfang und der andere hier am Ende.
Yes.
Amen.
Remember? Okay. So let's go now to Ezekiel chapter 1.
So, lass uns jetzt zu Hesekiel Kapitel 1 gehen.
And in verse 24,
Vers 24.
because this is now describing the cherubims that he sees here.
Und das
Okay.
beschreibt die Cherubim, die er hier sieht.
And we remember it's the 5th day of the 4th month where he saw the vision.
Und erinnern wir, dass es am 5. Tag des 4. Monats war, wo er die Vision sah,
After he was mourning.
nachdem er geweckt hat.
Okay. And when they went, I heard the voice of the noise of their wings, like the noise of great waters. As the voice of the Almighty, the voice of speech, as the noise of an host. And when they stood, they let down their wings. Okay, so how were their wings?
So, wie waren deren Flügel?
Yes, that's the voice of great waters, right?
Das Geräusch von vielen Wassern.
Okay, so this is
It's like the angels when they're ascending and descending. It's the messages coming so.
Das ist wie der Engel, wie sie auf und ab gehen. Das sind wie die Botschaften, die zu Gottes Volk kommen.
and then verse 25.
Jetzt Vers 25.
And there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. So this is now another voice.
So, hier
Okay.
jetzt eine weitere Stimme.
And this voice is also then mentioned here in verse 28.
Und diese Stimme ist hier wieder in Vers 28 erwähnt.
Because it says, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord, and when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spake. Okay, so when is he humbled in the dust?
So, wann ist er im Staub gedemütigt? Second voice.
Yes, at the same.
Bei der zweiten Stimme.
So, and then chapter 2, verse 1.
Und jetzt Kapitel 2, Vers 1.
And he said unto me, Son of man, stand upon thy feet, and I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and he set me upon my feet, that I heard him that spake unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I sent thee to the children of Israel. Okay,
Bis Vers 3.
so what happened to him now?
So, was ist mit ihm jetzt geschehen?
He said,
He said.
He
Ist
sent, yes. Okay, but before he sent,
Aber noch bevor er gesandt wird,
he had to.
the Spirit entered into him,
also
yes.
das Geist kam in ihm.
Okay, so the Spirit enters.
Das Geist kommt hinein,
Okay, sent.
er wird gesandt.
But before this,
T.
So, 1 second. Now, after the Spirit entered him, what happened there?
So, nachdem der Geist in ihn kommt, was geschah denn?
And so go on his feet.
Yes, he stands upon his feet.
Er steht auf seine Füßen auf.
Where else had the exact same experience?
Und wer hat denselben Erfahrung?
True witness.
Yeah, the two witnesses, right?
Die zwei Zeugen.
So let's go there go to Revelation 11.
Dann gehen wir zu Offenbarung 11.
You can keep your finger on Ezekiel if you want. Maybe we'll go back.
Halte den Platz in Hesekiel.
Revelation 11.
Offenbarung 11.
And verse 11.
Vers 11.
It says, "And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them." So what do we see here?
Was sehen wir hier?
Standing on the feet.
Yeah, the Spirit of God enters into them, and they stand upon their feet.
Das
Right?
Geist Gottes kommt in sie und sie stehen auf ihren Füßen.
Where else do we see this?
Wo sehen wir das?
37.
Yes, Ezekiel 37. Let's go there.
Hesekiel 37. Lass uns dahin.
How many times was he prophesying?
Also, wie oft hat er geprophezeit hier? So,
2 times.
2.
Right. So, looks to me like the two voices that are spoken to you.
Es kommt mir so vor wie diese 2 Stimmen, die zu dir gesprochen haben.
Okay.
It's like two distinct calls. On the big tract, always
Yes.
these two messages on the small tract.
Yes.
So auch wie diese 2 bestimmte Aufrufe. Offenbarung 18, der
Because-
große Fraktal.
What happens here with the first voice? Let's see in 7, verse 7.
So, was geschieht hier mit der ersten Stimme? Schauen wir in Vers 7 an.
So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. So what is here?
Also was finden wir hier in Vers 7? Shake.
A noise and a shaking.
So, ein Geräusch und eine Sichtung.
And what did we see with the wings of the cherubim here?
Und was haben wir gesehen mit den Flügeln von den Cherubim hier?
And
Ezekiel 1:24.
In Hesekiel 1,24.
the noise.
Yes, they also made a noise,
Sie haben auch ein Geräusch gemacht.
like the voice of the Almighty, like many waters, right?
Die Stimme des Allmächtigen wie die von vielen Wassern.
Okay. And it's always God's voice that produces a shaking.
Und es ist immer Gottes Stimme, die diese Sichtung verursacht.
Now verse 8.
Vers 8.
And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. So here the breath is not in you yet.
So
Okay.
hier, die Odem ist noch nicht in dir,
At the first voice.
bei dem ersten Stimme.
Okay, so like no breath.
So kein Odem oder kein Atem.
And neither was the breath in them at the first temple cleansing.
Yes.
Auch bei den ersten
I'm
Tempelreinigungen
just
war das
making the
Odem
point
nicht.
because they will say that that's the first
Ah, okay.
breath.
Yes,
Because
yes.
it's not.
Okay. Also ich mache nur diesen Punkt, weil einige sagen, dass das erste Geburt war und das ist es nicht.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, verse 9.
So jetzt Vers 9.
Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus saith the Lord God, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. So here we can see what came now into them at the second prophesying.
So hier können wir sehen, was kam in sie hinein bei dieser zweiten Prophezeiung?
The breath,
Das Odem.
and they stood upon their feet.
Und sie
Right?
sind auf ihren Füßen gestanden.
They were exceeding great army.
Eine äußerst große Armee.
Okay, so everybody follow so far?
Kann jeder soweit folgen?
Okay, then let's go now to Daniel chapter 10.
So, lass uns jetzt zu Daniel 10 gehen.
So, therefore, verse 5 and 6 is just the same illustration as these other revelations that we saw in Revelation 1 or in Ezekiel 1.
So deswegen die Verse 5 und 6, das sind dieselbe Offenbarungen, die wir gesehen haben in Offenbarung 1 oder in Hesekiel 1.
Yes?
Amen.
Everyone sees this?
Kann jeder das sehen?
And then in verse 7 it says,
Jetzt in Vers 7 sagt es,
And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. So, what came upon them when the vision came?
so
Yes,
das kam auf sie, als die Vision kam, eine Sichtung oder
Das-
eine Erschütterung.
the shaking, right?
Also Erschütterung hier.
Okay. So, therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me. For my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Okay, so basically it says he alone could see this vision.
So, es sagt, dass er alleine diese Vision sehen konnte.
Let's go to Acts chapter 9.
Lass uns zur Apostelgeschichte Kapitel 9 gehen.
Keep your finger, Daniel, please.
Halte den Platz weiterhin hier in Daniel.
Acts 9.
9.
Verse 3.
Vers 3.
That's now the vision that Paul saw.
Das ist die Vision, die Paulus sah.
And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. How did it come?
So, wie kam es?
Suddenly.
Plötzlich.
And when did he have this vision? What does the Bible say? Or Ellen White?
Und wann hat er diese Vision? Was sagt die Bibel? Was
Okay.
sagt Ellen White?
Keep your finger here. Let's go to Acts 22.
So, halte den Platz hier und geht zur Apostelgeschichte 22.
Verse 6.
Vers 6.
It says, And it came to pass that as I made my journey and was come nigh unto Damascus about noon, suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me, and I fell out unto the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? So when was it?
Wann war das? Noon.
Noon, midnight. Right?
So, Mittag oder Mitternacht.
So let's go back to Acts 9.
So, zurück zur Apostelgeschichte 9.
So it's suddenly here.
So, es ist plötzlich hier.
And in Isaiah Isaiah 6,
Und in Jesaja 6,
when the veil is lifted, how is it lifted?
wenn dieser Vorhang entfernt wird,
Suddenly, right?
es wird plötzlich entfernt.
Okay. And then jump down to verse 7, please.
Und jetzt Vers 7.
And the man which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice but seeing no man. So what didn't they see?
So, was haben sie nicht gesehen?
They didn't see anything.
Sie
Right?
haben nichts gesehen.
Okay. Yes, they heard the voice but they didn't see the man.
Sie haben die
Okay.
Stimme gehört, aber den Mann nicht gesehen.
Just like in Daniel 10,
Genauso wie in Daniel 10.
they didn't see Christ
Sie
then.
haben
Okay.
Christus nicht gesehen.
So therefore they just quaking came upon them and they fled.
So, deswegen diese Erschütterung kam über sie und sie flüchteten
And
davon.
what does it say about the latter rain?
Und was sagt es über den Spätregen? Falling on hearts,
It
all
can
around.
fall on hearts all around us, but many shall neither discern nor receive it. Right?
Auf Herzen ganz herum fallen, aber viele werden es weder erkennen noch erhalten.
Okay. Verse 6 and 7.
It also says that in the latter rain, those that reject it, they see in it something that awakens their fears,
Yes.
see in it something dangerous.
And they embrace themselves to resist it. Right?
Weil es sagt gemäß der Spätregen, dass sie darin sehen, irgendetwas, was ihre Furcht in sie erwecken und sie bereiten sich dagegen vorzustellen.
Okay, so let's go back to Daniel 10,
So gehen wir zurück zu Daniel 10,
verse 8.
Vers 8.
Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet heard I the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then I was in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. Okay, so let's go now to our notes.
So gehen wir jetzt zu den Livestreams, zu den Notizen.
Actually, I forgot one quote that I wanted to share about the 3 weeks. But we can just also read this quickly. So let's just read the first quote. It speaks about the 3 weeks here.
So lesen wir dieses erste Zitat, das spricht über diese 3 Wochen hier oder diese 21 Tage.
And because Sister White, she also had a 3-week experience.
Denn
Okay.
Ellen White hatte auch eine 3-wochige lange Erfahrung gehabt.
It says, up to this time I had never prayed in public and had only spoken a few timid words in prayer meeting. It was now impressed upon me that I should seek God in prayer at our small social meetings. This I dared not do, fearful of becoming confused and failing to express my thoughts. But the duty was impressed upon my mind so forcibly that when I attempted to pray in secret, I seemed to be mocking God because I had failed to obey His will. Despair overwhelmed me, and for 3 long weeks no ray of light pierced the gloom that encompassed me. My sufferings of mind were intense. Sometimes, for a whole night, I would not dare to close my eyes, but would wait until my twin sister was fast asleep, then quietly leave my bed and kneel upon the floor, praying silently with a dumb agony that cannot be described. So for how long was this condition?
Wie lange hat sie diesen Zustand?
3 weeks.
3
Okay.
Wochen.
So 3 weeks she was in great agony, right?
3 Wochen lang war sie in große
Seelenqual.
Seelenqual. Danke.
The horrors of an eternally burning hell were ever before me. I knew that it was impossible for me to live long in this state, and I dared not die and meet the terrible fate of the sinner. With what envy did I regard those who realized their acceptance with God? How precious did the Christian's hope seem to my agonized soul. I frequently bowed in prayer nearly all night, groaning and trembling with inexpressible anguish, and a hopelessness that passes all description. Lord, have mercy, was my plea. And like the poor publican, I dared not lift my eyes to heaven, but bowed my face upon the floor. I became very much reduced in flesh and strength, yet kept my suffering and despair to myself. Okay, so with what is she comparing this with?
So mit was vergleicht sie dies?
Yes, the publican, right?
So mit der Zöllner.
Okay, but I don't know, I just realized maybe this experience is, I mean, it's perfectly marking this experience.
Also ich stelle gerade vor, dass diese Erfahrung markiert auf perfekte Weise diese Erfahrung.
Because what is she praying here?
Denn was betete sie hier?
Lord have mercy, right?
Habt Erbarmen.
Yes, they're all, I'm not so sure. You have to pray that all the way through there. It's at the end there when the revelation comes to you.
Yes.
That's where He's delivering you. But here, the 3 weeks she's receiving nothing. And this is the experience she's having all through that time. So
So, hier diese Erfahrung erhältst du die Offenbarung, aber du sollst diese Gebet für Gnade beten, diese ganze Weg hindurch. Und diese 21 Tage hier, sie erhält nichts, aber hier erhältst du wohl die Offenbarung.
Yes, true.
because Mordecai, he's having praying the very same way. And plus,
Mordecai betet auf derselbe Art.
maybe before we had this discussion from this morning, when he's told to go to Zarephath. Zarephath means melting pot.
So, Zarephath heißt dieser Schmelztopf, wo Jesaja
So
befohlen ist zu gehen.
that's the same way, Mark. You know, we told
To go to Zarephath.
go to Zarephath. Zarephath means melting pot.
Hier zu diesem Zarephath, heißt das?
Zapat.
Diese Sabbat hier in Deutsch, wo Jesaja befohlen ist zu gehen, das Elia befohlen ist zu gehen, danke, das ist, heißt Schmelztopf.
Yes, I mean, the 3 weeks of Daniel are definitely beforehand because they lead you to the revelation, right?
Denn die 3 Wochen von Daniel ist auf jeden Fall davor, weil es führt zu der Offenbarung.
Yes. And I think your argument is valid that because she didn't receive anything in these.
Und ich glaube, diese Punkt ist gültig, dass sie in dieser Zeit, diese 3 Wochen hier, sie hat nichts erhalten.
She's the morning prophet.
So,
She's like Ezekiel.
sie ist wie Hesekiel hier,
Yes.
der klagende Prophet.
Okay, so now let's go to Daniel 10
So,
and 6, the header. Isaiah 6, sorry.
also weiterhin in die Notizen der Überschrift Daniel 10 und Jesaja 6. Der Zitat danach.
In this quote now, Sis White compares the experience of Daniel 10 with Isaiah 6.
Dieses Zitat, Ellen White, vergleicht die Erfahrung von Daniel 10 mit Jesaja in Kapitel 6.
It says, "It was the same presence of divine holiness that had caused the prophet Daniel to fall as one dead before the angel of God. He said, 'My comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength.'" So this is what we read in verse 8. Right?
Das ist, was wir in Vers 8 gelesen haben bereits.
So when Isaiah beheld the glory of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." So therefore we can see she compares it with Isaiah 6.
So hier können wir sehen, sie vergleicht das mit Jesaja 6.
Humanity with its weakness and sin was brought in contrast with the perfection of divinity, and he felt altogether deficient and unholy. Thus it has been with all who have been granted a view of God's greatness and majesty. Next paragraph.
Nächster Absatz.
Peter exclaimed, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man." Yet he clung to the feet of Jesus, feeling that he could not be parted from him.
That's what she did. Same thing, right?
Das
Gut,
hier ist
das
dasselbe,
ist
was
White,
Ellen
yes,
White
yes,
tat.
The Savior answered, "Fear not, from henceforth," but Peter, this is already the revelation, right?
Also Petrus, das ist hier bereits die
But I'm
Offenbarung.
just saying our experience was that she didn't want to be in God's presence because she knew she was a sinner, but she dare not let him go. It's the same experience all the way down until the end.
Also Ellen White hat diese Erfahrung, dass sie fühlte sich nicht würdig, in Gottes Gegenwart zu sein, weil sie eine Sünder war, aber sie wagte es ja gar nicht, ihm loszulassen. Das ist derselbe Erfahrung ganz hindurch.
Yes. But here, Peter, this is the revelation because
Yes, yes.
this is this experience here.
Petrus, das hier ist der Offenbarung, weil das ist diese Erfahrung hier.
Because he then saw the glory and saw now his sinfulness.
Weil er sah die Herrlichkeit und seine Sündhaftigkeit dadurch gesehen.
It says, Peter exclaimed, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man." Yet he clung to the feet of Jesus, feeling that he could not be parted from him, like Jacob.
So, genauso wie Jakob.
The Savior answered, "Fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men." It was after Isaiah had beheld the holiness of God and his own unworthiness that he was entrusted with a divine message. It was after Peter had been led to self-renunciation and dependence upon divine power that he received the call to his work for Christ. Okay, so marks here this point now when you're sent, right? After you receive this experience.
Es markiert den Punkt hier, wo du gesandt wirst, nachdem du diese Erfahrung erhalten hast.
And it says here in the next paragraph,
Und der nächste Absatz, es sagt weiter.
"Until this time, none of the disciples had fully united as co-laborers with Jesus. They had witnessed many of his miracles and had listened to his teaching, but they had not entirely forsaken their former employment." Okay, so up to this time, what have you not fully done?
So, bis zu diesem Punkt hin, was hast du noch nicht
Your
vollständig
past
getan?
life.
Yes. You have not forsaken all, your self is not fully surrendered yet.
Du
Okay.
hast noch nicht deine vergangenen Leben aufgegeben, dein Selbst ist noch nicht vollständig dargelegt.
Yeah, so you didn't have the Romans 6 experience yet where the old man is crucified,
Du
right?
hast noch nicht diese Römer 6 Erfahrung gehabt, wo der alte Mann gekreuzigt wird.
And anybody would claim today that he already fully forsook his past life is just a liar. Okay.
Und jemand, der gerade heute behaupten würde, seine vergangenen Leben verleugnet zu haben, ist schlichtweg ein Lügner.
Okay. So, but this means holiness, right? When you fully surrender to the Lord, this is when you're holy, not before.
Das bedeutet Heiligkeit, wenn du dich vollständig dem Herrn hingegeben hast und nicht zuvor.
Okay, so fully entered. Fully entered into God's cause.
So vollständig in
In Gottes Werk.
Gottes Werk hineingekommen.
Yes. Okay. Now let's go back to Daniel 10.
Zu Daniel 10.
So it says here, he retained no strength.
Sagt
Okay.
hier, dass er keine Kraft erhielt.
And what does Sister White say? What is justification by faith?
Und was sagt Ellen White? Was ist Rechtfertigung durch Glauben?
Glory of God doing for man what he cannot do for himself, laying the glory of man in the dust.
Yes, exactly.
Gott tut das, was der Mensch nicht für sich selbst tun kann, nämlich seine Herrlichkeit in den Staub legen.
It's always between doing something in your own strength or in God's strength, right?
Es ist immer das zwischen irgendetwas im eigenen Kraft tun gegen irgendetwas in Gottes Kraft.
And as long as self is alive, you still want to do things in your own strength.
Und solange das selbst am Leben ist, willst du immer noch Sachen im eigenen Kraft tun.
Therefore, this is the revelation. This is what will lay all your strength in the dust.
Und
Okay.
deswegen dies hier, die Offenbarung, das ist es, was all deine Kraft im Staub legen wird.
Okay. So, and this is what happened here to Daniel.
Und das ist, was hier gerade mit Daniel geschehen ist.
So, verse 9.
Vers 9.
Yet heard I the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. And behold, an hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands. Okay, so
Bis Vers 10.
in verse 9, in what condition is he?
Vers 9. In welchem Zustand ist er?
In a deep sleep, right?
Ein tiefer Schlaf.
With his face toward the ground.
Mit seinem Gesicht dem Boden geneigt.
So keep your finger here, let's go to Daniel 8.
So, halte den Platz hier, geht zu Daniel 8.
And then verse 15 to 18.
Und die Verse 15 bis 18.
And it came to pass, when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision, and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O Son of Man, for that at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. So the same illustration, right?
Vers 18, also derselbe Darstellung.
So he was also in a deep sleep, face towards the ground.
Er war auch in einem tiefen Schlaf mit seinem Gesicht im Boden
And
geneigt.
then he was touched.
Und er würde berührt.
Okay, let's go back to Daniel 10.
Zurück zu Daniel 10.
So it's the same illustration as here in Daniel 10.
So, derselbe Darstellung in Daniel 8 wie Daniel 10.
Okay, and now let's continue in verse 11.
Und wir fahren fort jetzt in Vers 11.
And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee I am now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Okay, so how does he call him?
So, wie nennt er ihn hier?
Greatly beloved, right?
So, auf große Weise beliebt.
Did we read this yesterday also?
Haben wir das gestern auch
Yes.
gelesen?
Daniel 9, right?
In Daniel 9.
So it says here, greatly beloved, understand, and I'm now sent to you.
So, der greatly?
Greatly beloved.
Ja, wie ist der great?
Also
Ja,
sehr, ja,
sehr, sehr beliebt und
verstehe und ich bin jetzt zu dir
ihm
gesandt.
ist Verständnis gegeben und er ist zu ihm gesandt worden.
Okay, let's go to Daniel 9.
Gehen wir zu Daniel 9,
Let's remind ourselves. Verse 23.
Vers
Or
23.
22, 23.
22, 23.
And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. Okay, same illustration.
Derselbe Darstellung.
Okay, and yesterday, where did we mark this?
Und gestern, wo haben wir dieses markiert?
When did Gabriel come to him?
Wann ist Gabriel zu Daniel gekommen?
According to verse 21.
Gemäß Vers
Yes, at the
21.
evening oblation, right?
So der Abendopfer,
So it was the 9th hour.
so 9. Stunde.
Alright, so therefore I want to suggest also that verse 11
So deswegen möchte ich vorschlagen, dass auch Vers 11,
marks now here the 9th hour. Okay.
Yes.
you mean in Daniel 10.
Yes.
So Vers 11 in Daniel 10 markiert auch hier der 9. Stunde.
And he's now, what is he now?
Und was ist er jetzt?
Standing, trembling, right?
Er steht und zittert.
Okay. But I'm still open. Maybe it's also here at the beginning. Okay,
Ich bin-
I'm not fully.
Offen, vielleicht ist es noch hier am Anfang.
Because how many times is he touched now?
Denn wie oft wird Daniel berührt? 3 times.
3 times. Okay.
3-mal.
So the question is whether it's these 3 times or whether it's like 1, 2, 3 here at the end. Okay.
Die Frage ist, ob es diese 3 Zeiten hier sind oder diese 1, 2, 3 hier am Ende.
Okay. Let's just continue. We'll try to figure it out.
Lasst uns weiterlesen und wir versuchen das herauszufinden.
Because it says here then in verse 12,
Vers 12 sagt es weiter.
Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel. What does he say?
Was sagt er?
Fear not.
Fear not.
Fürchte dich nicht.
Okay, keep your finger here.
Halte den Platz hier.
Let's go to Revelation 1,
Und das ist Offenbarung
verse 17.
1, Vers 17.
It says, And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not, I'm the first and the last. So also he was falling down as dead, and he said, Fear not. Right?
So auch er fiel hier nieder wie tot und er sagte ihm, fürchte dich nicht.
Okay, let's go back to Daniel 10,
Zurück zu Daniel 10,
verse 12.
Vers 12.
Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. Just like in Daniel 9, what he said, right?
So, genauso wie in Daniel 9.
From the very beginning, the prayer was actually answered.
So von Anfang an ist dein Gebet erhört worden.
Verse 13.
Vers 13 jetzt.
So we can be already, this is a good hope for us, okay?
Das ist eine gute Hoffnung für uns.
So right here, when the crisis comes and we start praying, we can already believe the Lord is on his way.
So,
Okay.
gerade hier, wenn der Krise kommt und wir fangen an zu beten, wir können glauben von da an, dass der Herr wohl auf seinem Weg ist.
And he already sent Gabriel to fight with the state powers here.
Und
Okay.
er hat bereits Gabriel gesandt, um mit den Staatsmächten hier drin zu kämpfen.
So we just need to endure a little moment and remain faithful, and we will be delivered.
So, wir müssen nur einen kleinen Moment aushalten und treu bleiben und wir werden befreit werden.
In the shaken vision, it promises that if you persevere, the angels will come and bring light to you.
Also
Yes.
in
Keep
diese
you sustained.
Vision der Sichtung, wenn du treu bist und weiterhin betest, dann die Verheißung ist es, dass die Engel zu dir kommen werden und dir Licht bringen und dir dadurch erhalten werden.
Okay, let's continue now.
Dann lesen wir weiter,
Verse 13.
Vers 13.
But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. And I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days. For yet the vision is for many days. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. So that's the second touching.
So hier ist in Vers 16 ist das zweite Berührung.
Then I opened my mouth and spake and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. So who's this in verse 16 who touches him?
So wer ist das hier in Vers 16, der ihn berührt?
Christ, yes.
Das ist Christus.
Okay. The first touch was Gabriel,
Die erste Berührung war Gabriel,
but this touch is now Christ.
aber diese hier ist von Christus.
Okay, I just want to show you this.
Und ich zeige dir das.
Okay, so let's go to the next quote.
So, lasst uns in den Notizen zu der nächsten Zitat gehen.
Review and Herald.
Das ist von RH, Review and Herald.
It says, And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them. Just jump down to the next bold-faced.
Zur nächsten Feld gedrückt.
Such will be the experience of everyone who is truly sanctified. The clearer their views of the greatness, glory, and perfection of Christ, the more vividly will they see their own weakness and imperfection. They will have no disposition to claim a sinless character. That which has appeared right and comely in themselves will, in contrast with Christ's purity and glory, appear only as unworthy and corruptible. It is when men are separated from God, when they have very indistinct views of Christ, that they say, "I'm sinless, I'm sanctified." Gabriel then appeared to the prophet and thus addressed him, "O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright." So this is now Gabriel speaking here,
So,
right?
das ist Gabriel, der hier spricht.
Okay. And then he goes on to say, "Fear not, Daniel," and so on and so forth. So this is, she quotes until verse 12.
So, sie sagt hier weiter, fürchte dich nicht und so weiter. Sie zitiert bis Vers 12.
Okay, so this is Gabriel, and then obviously he was fighting also with the prince of Medo and Persia. So verse 13 and 14 is still Gabriel.
Das ist Gabriel hier und er kämpft mit den Prinzen von Mede und Persien. Also Verse 13 und 14 ist weiterhin Gabriel.
Okay, now next paragraph.
Nächster Absatz.
What great honor was shown to Daniel by the majesty of heaven! He comforts his trembling servant and assures him that his prayer was heard in heaven, and that in answer to that fervent petition, the angel Gabriel was sent to affect the heart of the Persian king. The monarch had resisted the impressions of the Spirit of God during the 3 weeks while Daniel was fasting and praying. But heaven's prince, the archangel Michael, was sent to turn the heart of the stubborn king to take some decided action to answer the prayer of Daniel. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. So that's now verse 15.
So,
Right.
der nächste Absatz hier, das ist der Anfang ist Vers 15.
And then it says, "And
Same.
behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips." That's now verse 16.
Vers 16.
And said, "O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me." So this is now verse 19.
Das
That she
spricht
quotes.
über jetzt Vers 19, die sie hier zitiert.
And now she explains this.
Und sie erklärt das jetzt.
It says, "So great was the divine glory revealed to Daniel, that he could not endure the sight. Then the messenger of heaven veiled the brightness of his presence, and appeared to the prophet as one like the similitude of the sons of men. By his divine power he strengthened this man of integrity and of faith to hear the message sent to him from God." Okay, so who was it?
So, wer war das?
Christ, right?
Das war Christus.
The one who had the divine power.
Derjenige, der diese göttliche Kraft hat.
And with the divine power he strengthened now Gabriel.
Diese
Daniel.
göttliche Kraft, der hat Daniel gestärkt.
Okay, so the one like unto the similitude of the sons of man is Christ.
Das ist Christus.
Because of the power or what?
Yes, it says here, let's read the bold-faced again.
So, diese fettgedruckte, den Satz lesen wir wieder.
So great was the divine glory, so she first quotes here verse 16 and 19. Right?
So, sie zitiert hier zuerst Verse 16 und 19.
And then it says, "So great was the divine glory revealed to Daniel, that he could not endure the sight. Then the messenger of heaven veiled the brightness of his presence, and appeared to the prophet as one like the similitude of the sons of men. By his divine power he strengthened this man of integrity and of faith." So, who strengthened him?
So, wer hat ihn gestärkt?
By his divine power, right?
Bei seiner göttlichen Kraft.
Does Gabriel have divine power?
So heißt Gabriel göttliche Kraft.
Oh yes, but it's given to him, but
Yes.
I'm not into that one. I'm not arguing with you, but I'm just.
I mean, by his divine power
I
means...
think there's other ways of showing that it's correct. But,
Inbound.
I mean, his divine power, so Gabriel doesn't have divine power.
yes, but when you receive the latter rain, you're receiving also divine power. The point is, when you've received it, you can now also give it. So that's why I'm not so sure that your argument for that would be valid. But I'm not denying that it's Christ. I think you can show it in other ways, but.
I mean, for me it's very clear. I mean, This is why it never attributes, at least to my knowledge, divine power to Gabriel. But
Yeah, but when you say divine power versus human power, then
Yeah, I mean, look, the angel Gabriel, when he came down to the tomb, the glory was so bright, the Roman soldiers couldn't bear the sight, they fled from his presence. It's the same experience here, so what I'm saying to you is just, I think you need a little bit more to substantiate that.
all right. I mean, if it doesn't convince you, for me it's enough. But then we need to find some more evidence for this. Okay, so all right. Okay, doesn't matter. I think it's just unbelief.
No, I think, no, come on, don't say that, you gotta go on, thus saith the Lord. That's not enough, I'm saying, and there's other ways you can show this Christ, I'm sure there is, and we've looked at this before. So I will try to dig it up. I'm not arguing with you that it's Christ, I'm just saying that you want everybody to say yes to you, but everybody's looking at the same as what I'm looking at. And based upon that alone, I wouldn't say amen, right? So I'm saying because you can show that there's other times when the angel of the Lord comes, manifests a similar attribute, so I'm just saying that that's not enough. You always need to give more than
Okay.
a witness.
All right. So, but okay, doesn't matter. So I just want to suggest that therefore it's Christ, okay, who strengthens you.
Vorschlagen, dass das Christus ist hier, der ihm stärkt.
So, because it's okay, let's just go back to the verses.
So, gehen wir zu das Buch Daniel zurück.
And in verse 16, let's continue in verse 16.
Vers 16 lesen wir.
It says, "And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth and spake and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me." So, what is not in him here at the moment?
So, was ist nicht in ihm im Moment?
Breath.
Breath.
Okay.
Der Odem.
So we understand here at the beginning there was no breath, right?
Wir haben verstanden, dass hier am Anfang gab es keinen Atem oder Odem.
But at the second voice then the breath entered.
Aber
Okay.
bei der zweiten Stimme kam diesen Odem in ihm.
Okay, so there are 3 touches in total.
Es
Okay.
gibt 3 Berührungen insgesamt.
So basically it's either, I mean, if the 3 touches would be this,
So, wenn die
Okay.
3 Berührungen die hier wären,
then second touch is not the end, therefore no breath is in him.
so die
Okay.
zweite Berührung ist noch nicht das Ende, also immer noch keine Odem in ihm.
But if there would be like these 3 touches here at the end,
Aber
okay,
wenn es diese 3 Berührungen hier am Ende geben würde,
then that would be like a mini fractal where the breath then would enter here at the very end. Okay.
das wäre dann wie eine Mini-Fraktal, wo das Odem gerade hier am Ende einkommen würde.
Okay. And I'm not fully settled either way yet. Okay, I need to
So oder so noch nicht ganz fest.
find like the key, okay, to really nail it.
Wir müssen noch den Schlüssel finden, um das festzunageln.
Okay. But let's continue.
Dann lesen wir weiter.
Verse 18.
Vers 18.
Then there came again and touched me, one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me, and said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? So in verse 19 is now the 3rd touch,
Vers 19 ist der dritte Berührung,
and this is now when he's fully strengthened.
wenn er vollständig gestärkt ist.
Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? So this is now Gabriel definitely again in verse 20.
Das ist Gabriel jetzt hier in Vers 20.
Because then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia, and when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth, and there is none that holdeth with me in these things but Michael your prince. Okay. So basically this would lead you down then here to this point when at the third touch he's now strengthened.
So, das führt zu diesem Punkt, am dritten Punkt, dritte Berührung hier, wo er gestärkt ist.
And what does he now receive?
Und was erhält er jetzt?
He receives even more light, right?
So, er erhält noch mehr Licht.
You know, receives the understanding of Daniel 11.
Er erhält die Verständnis von Daniel 11.
Okay. So, and therefore this is something where, I mean, here you already receive much light, okay?
So, hierin erhältst du bereits viel Licht.
But at the end, this is when you will fully receive this full revelation, right?
Aber am Ende ist, wo du die vollständige Offenbarung erhältst.
And this is basically, what is it, Daniel 11?
Und was ist Daniel 11?
It's the full revelation, yes?
Full revelation of the battle between King of the North and King of the
Yes,
South.
exactly, okay.
Es ist der volle Offenbarung von der Kampf zwischen König des Nordens und König des Südens.
Okay, and this is what you need to understand to really understand how the Lord sets up kings and takes down kings,
Und
okay?
das ist, was wir verstehen mussten, um zu verstehen, wie der Herr Könige auf- und absetzt.
Okay, so... Okay, mark it here, full revelation.
Der volle Offenbarung.
Okay, so... and tomorrow, by God's grace, I don't know, I don't want to speak unbelief, but tomorrow we can maybe look a little bit at Daniel 11, but as we already know, it's still very close to us, okay?
So, morgen, also ich möchte jetzt nicht so Unglaube aussprechen, aber morgen durch Gottes Gnade werden wir ein bisschen Offenbarung 11 ansprechen,
Daniel.
Daniel 11 anschauen. Aber wie wir wissen, das ist noch für uns geschlossen.
Okay, but still, bits and pieces we already understand,
Aber teilweise verstehen wir Stücke hier und da.
and what we understand we can already bring together.
Und das, was wir verstehen, können wir bereits darlegen.
Okay, so what we saw this evening
So, was wir heute Abend gesehen haben,
is the 3 weeks of Daniel is this time here when he's fasting and praying and mourning.
so die 3 Wochen von Daniel ist diese Zeitperiode hier, wo er betet und fastet und auch wehklagt.
And then at the end of this time he received the revelation,
Und am Ende von dieser Zeit erhält die Offenbarung hier,
just like for instance Ezekiel or John
Genauso
or
wie
Isaiah,
Hesekiel oder Johannes oder Jesaja.
but it's always an increasing glory,
Aber
right?
es ist ein Zuwachsen an Herrlichkeit.
For instance, Ezekiel, did he understand at the beginning when he started seeing the revelation, did he understand everything?
Zum Beispiel hat Hesekiel am Anfang, wenn er die Offenbarung erhalten hat, alles verstanden?
No, it was confusion for him,
Es
right?
war am Anfang für ihn verwirrend.
Okay, so, but at the end, this is now when you will really see things clearly,
Aber
okay?
am Ende, da ist, wo du diese Sachen klar sehen wirst.
Okay, so in these 3 touches in Daniel 10,
Und diese 3 Berührungen in Daniel 10,
we, at least I have not fully understood yet whether it's these 3 things or these 3 things here.
ich habe noch nicht verstanden völlig, ob es diese 3 oder diese 3 Punkte hier sind oder hier am Ende 3 Punkte
Maybe
ist.
Brother Mark, he has already better understanding of it, I don't know.
Vielleicht hat Bruder Mark ein besseres Verständnis davon.
The 3
Touches.
touches.
I had you mention it there, but I've got to look at it again.
Yes, we need to look into this more closely.
Also wir müssen dies näher betrachten.
But definitely, we saw also this voice here at the beginning, the voice here at the end.
Aber auf jeden Fall haben wir diese Stimme am Anfang und Stimme am Ende gesehen.
And at the voice at the beginning, there's this noise and this shaking,
So, das Stimme am Anfang gibt es diese Geräusche und diese Sichtung,
where also Daniel's companions will then flee away,
wo die Gefährten von Daniel flüchten werden.
and because they saw no man, just like Paul's companions.
So, die haben keinen gesehen, genauso wie die Gefährten von Saul oder Paulus.
Okay, and here at the beginning, there's no breath.
Und
Ja.
am Anfang gibt es keinen Odem.
But here, then, when the second voice comes, this is when the Spirit will enter you, and you will stand upon your feet, and you will be sent.
Aber hier bei der zweiten Stimme, das ist, wo der Geist kehrt in dich, ja, das Odem kommt in dir, du bist auf deine Füßen gestellt und du wirst gesandt.
and you're now fully entered into God's cause.
Und du bist vollständig in die Sache des Herrn eingekommen.
Eingetreten.
Gottes Cause?
Gottes Werk.
Ach, sein Werk. Also dann bist du vollständig in Gottes Werk eingetreten.
Okay, and this is also the time when now Daniel 11 is fully revealed to your understanding.
Und das ist auch die Zeit, wo Daniel 11 vollständig dein Verstand geoffenbart
And
ist.
this is also when you now stand before the king and will show him what shortly comes to pass.
Und das ist auch der Punkt, wo du vor der König stehen wirst und ihm zeigen wird, das, was in Kürze geschehen wird.
Amen?
Amen.
Okay, so then we can see Daniel chapters 1 to 9 all began at the Sunday law.
Also wir können sehen, dass die Kapitel in Daniel 1 bis 9 fingen alle am Sonntagsgesetz an,
But Daniel 10 started here.
aber Daniel 10 fing hier an.
Okay, so that's the first break that you can see.
So das ist der erste Unterschied, den man sehen kann.
And yes. Okay, so could everybody follow?
So konnte jeder folgen.
Okay, amen. Yeah, question.
Haben wir Daniel 6 nicht an der Final Review markiert?
So haben wir Daniel 6 nicht am Finale Untersuchung
Daniel
markiert.
6? No. Yes, Daniel 6, yes, you're right. Daniel 6 begins with a little time of peace.
So Daniel 6 fängt mit der kleinen Zeit des Friedens an.
That's true.
Das war richtig.
But it's still marking the Sunday law,
Yeah.
it's just a precursor before the
That's,
Ja.
Aber es markiert dennoch der Sonntagsgesetz, es ist nur so eine
that's,
kleine Stück bevor.
just marks the time when they try to find fault in him. This is the time of peace, and then they bring the Sunday. Yes.
Markiert nur die Zeit, wo sie versuchen, irgendetwas an Daniel zu finden. Kleine Zeit des Friedens vor dem Sonntagsgesetz.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Then let's close with our prayer round.
Dann lasst uns mit in der Gebetsrunde schließen.